My name is Evelyn Moore. I have the life every woman dreams of in the eyes of outsiders. Countless fortunes, a distinguished last name, a handsome husband. But in my eyes, it was all a golden cage. Richard, my husband, he was handsome, gentle, and knew how to play the perfect role in front of others. Until that night, I finally saw his true face. I was supposed to be on a business trip, but I went home early because the meeting was cancelled. The lights in the living room were still on, and laughter overflowed from the study. I was about to turn away when I heard Clara's sneering voice. As long as she dies, it's all ours. Richard chuckled. Don't worry, dear. Soon, her heart will stop beating Gunexpedy. My world collapsed in an instant. But at the same time, my heart was surprisingly calm. They wanted my life? That made them think. They succeeded. Richard orchestrated a family dinner. The long table was filled with crystal glasses and red wine, and the lights reflected false warmth. The guests toasted and laughed, but my heart was already as cold as steel. He sat in the main seat, with a perfect smile on his face. Clara sat not far away, and she changed into a low-key but provocative black dress. At that moment, I could almost feel her unconcealed ambition. Come, toast to our dear Evelyn. Richard raised his glass, his eyes burning on me. I smiled slightly, and my fingertips touched the glass of wine. This wine was supposed to be the poison they gave me, but they wouldn't know that I had had lawyers and private investigators secretly replace the liquid in the glass. The real poison was lying quietly in Richard's glass at the moment. I picked up the wine, drank it lightly, and moved gracefully and calmly. After a few seconds, I suddenly felt a tightening in my chest, and my whole body seemed to be collapsing. Evelyn, someone exclaimed. My body fell uncontrollably to one side, and the wine glass fell to the ground, breaking into countless pieces. I saw Richard stand up quickly, pretending to be flustered. Call the doctor, he shouted, but with the coldness I knew best. My eyes gradually blurred, and I suppressed a smile on the corner of my lips. The play, it's time to begin. A few minutes later, the family's personal doctor arrived. He reached out to check my pulse and solemnly announced, cardiac arrest. She's gone. There was a burst of exclamation and confusion in the hall. I lay quietly on the carpet, my heart temporarily suppressed by drugs to almost imperceptible, and I clearly heard Richard's irrepressible sigh. It wasn't sadness. It was a relief. He whispered to Clara, "It's finally over." Clara's eyes flashed with victory, like a venomous snake who had finally succeeded in eating. Their performance has just begun, and my revenge has also come to the stage. News of her death spread through the family overnight. Lawyers, media, relatives, everyone was talking about Evelyn Moore's sudden death. But the real Evelyn was now lying in a private, secluded clinic, staring at the ceiling. The doctor put away his stethoscope and nodded at me. Your heartbeat and breathing have gradually returned to normal. You need to rest for a few days to make sure no one finds out. I smiled slightly. They think I'm dead, so let them continue to believe it. In the ward of the clinic, I opened the folder that I had already prepared. Inside was the evidence I had secretly collected in the past few months. Richard's ambiguous photo with Clara, transfer records, and even the contract with forged signatures. They thought they were being careful, but they didn't know that the moment they betrayed me, they had already revealed the flaw. More importantly, I had signed a testament addendum with my lawyer. Once I die, the estate will immediately enter the notarization process, and Richard must publicly face the whole family, and that day is the day I really return. At night, the window of the ward was a dark sky. I sat up alone, recalling the details of that marriage. I used to really love Richard. I made him go from a poor boy to the deputy CEO of the group. And now, he has destroyed me in order to obtain huge wealth and a despicable woman. The pain in my heart has already turned into cold hatred. You want everything from me? I whispered to myself, and a sneer appeared on the corner of my lips. When the day the inheritance is announced, I will tear off your masks with my own hands. A few days later, the private investigator brought new information. Madam, Richard can't wait to start liquidating his assets. He also plans to move into your estate with Clara. I stared at the report, my fingertips slowly tightening. He even wants to occupy my home. Very good, I said coldly. Since they want to celebrate at my tombstone, I'll give them the biggest funeral. That night, I asked my lawyer to send a secret document. It said, the final reading time of the estate, the 15th of this month, Moore Manor Hall. Richard and Clara will never miss it, because in their eyes, it means hundreds of millions of dollars in wealth and control of my life's work. And on that day they will see a woman return from the grave. On the morning of the 15th, Moore Manor was relit. The crystal chandeliers, the red carpet, and the silver tableware on the long table were all preparing for a farewell ceremony. The funny thing is that everyone thought I was the soul buried under the tombstone, and I was watching all this quietly from the black car in the distance. "Madam, everything went according to plan," the lawyer reminded softly. I nodded, and a sneer appeared on the corner of my mouth behind the mask. "Today will be their nightmare." In the hall, the relatives were dressed in gorgeous clothes and looked solemn on the surface, but they couldn't hide the greed in their eyes. Richard was wearing a black suit and the cufflinks I had personally selected for him. Clara stood beside him like a victor, her bright smile indicating that she was about to take office. The lawyer stood at the long table, slowly unfolding the documents. "According to the will of Miss Evelyn Moore, this estate will be shared by her immediate heirs and spouse." Before the words fell, the relatives immediately whispered. Richard's face flashed with fake grief and whispered, "Evelyn always wants the family to be united." I watched in the dark and almost laughed out loud. He acted really well, but unfortunately this scene will soon be exposed by me. The lawyer continued to read, but suddenly stopped. Another door in the hall slowly opened. High heels stepped on the marble floor, and the crisp sound was like a death knell. I walked in slowly, wearing a long black dress. My face was pale but my eyes were cold. There was an exclamation from the hall. "She is still alive!" Richard stood in a daze, his fingers trembling and pointing at me. "Evelyn, this is impossible. You think you can make me disappear completely by drugging me?" I sneered, my voice echoing in the hall. "Unfortunately, you underestimated me." I handed the prepared evidence to the lawyer, and the projector instantly lit up. Photographs, audio recordings, and transfer vouchers revealed the conspiracy between Richard and Clara. Just as Richard was about to rush over, 2 police officers walked out from both sides of the hall. "Richard Moore, Clara Lewis, you must come with us immediately on suspicion of attempted murder and property fraud." Clara collapsed instantly, fell to the ground, crying and grabbing Richard's hand. He just stared at me, his eyes full of resentment and unwillingness. I calmly looked back. This should be justice, not betrayal. The hall returned to silence. I sat back on the main seat of the long table, my hands folded as if I had never left. Relatives came forward to comfort, but no one dared to look directly at the cold light in my eyes. At this moment, I was once again the true ruler of the Moore family. But deep down, I felt a trace of desolation. The man I once loved became the most poisonous enemy. Victory is sweet, but mixed with blood and tears. I raised the champagne and whispered coldly, "Cheers to death, because sometimes only death can bring truth back to life."